Welcome to the first episode of the Peak Tension Podcast. I am Dr. Derek Wilcox, and beside me, my co-host, my partner in crime, through many misjudgments and miscalculations on her own, my wife, 13-time IBJJF world champion, former MMA world champion, PhD, Dr. Jennifer Case. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm good. You excited to be in the realm of Hollywood now with this big production?
Sure.
Yeah. This feels real big. We are in our gym behind the house and hopefully showcasing some of your beautiful glasswork. Tell us about that a little bit.
I made that.
You made that. Well, what is it?
This is called flame working or torch work, and you use glass rods and have a torch that is fueled by propane and oxygen. You melt down your glass rods and they become liquid, and you shape them with gravity, a couple tools, and you can make beautiful glass such as this. These are my little gnome gardens. Got little gnomes hanging out in the mushrooms. I like to make the sculptures for fantasy type things versus realistic, mainly because, with our career in nutrition and fitness, that's the science side, and it's very definite as, this is correct, this is incorrect. There's the black and white. Whereas when I start playing around with the glass, I get into that, let's just see, in that fantasy realm where nothing's necessarily wrong and whatever I feel like making is right.
Working the other side of your brain, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, it's super cool. I wish I had a quarter of the artistic talent that you have, because you're able to draw and do glass art and all kinds of cool stuff. So, and where can they find some of your work for that?
You can find my stuff at my website, drjimjitsu.com. Do you think it's important to point out that you are a musician, so you do get to work the other side of your brain as you write songs about farting? Various clever birthday songs.
Jen, that was only for your ears. I only get that romantic just for you. Well, I wanted to showcase that because after all the academic accolades, after all the combat sport accolades, you also have that side of you. And that's the thing, actually, when we got married, that I was most excited about, not just the lifetime of nuptials that we would have, but I was excited for people to get to see another side of you, because most people just know you for MMA or jiu-jitsu, or you're Dr. Jen, and you send people their macros and you send training plans and all these really serious things, delving into the sciences and your intelligence, but there's so much more to you. And that's why I'm really excited to have this kind of a show. We get to talk about you, because the spotlight's on you. You're incredibly unique. You're a one of one. I tell people this all the time. You are my unicorn, as I said in my vows at our wedding. But I think a lot of people got to see you in a completely different light for the first time, as far as not just being a violent killing machine on the mats and pounding people's faces and causing submissions to occur, but you have so much more to you. And I'm excited to do that. But first, if we're going to get into all those things, we have to find out, where did you come from?
One day, my mommy and my dad. I'm originally from Clay Center, Kansas, which is a small farming community in the Midwest. Grew up there, then went to college in Kansas as well. Went to Washburn University, and then on to University of Kansas in Lawrence, and finished at K-State. And then, how far do you want? What do you want me to talk about?
I'd like to know how you grew up.
My parents, they had city jobs, and they were also farmers. For some reason, they think that's a good hobby / career, side gig, whatever you want to call it. Mother Nature has tried to wipe out that farm many, many times via tornadoes, and they just keep rebuilding. So growing up, my brother and I, we worked on the farm. We didn't have a lot of money. Right before I was born, there was an accident, and all of the hogs that my parents had died, like all of them. So they ended up going into debt and had to kind of, again, rebuild. One of the first rebuildings. So Doug and I were a good source of labor to help in the rebuilding efforts. So not a lot of convenience. Like now my dad has the Rhino to get all over the farm. He's got multiple tractors, sprayers, all kinds of convenience things. When I was growing up, my brother and I were the convenience things. So
Gotcha. Did he ride you guys across the farm?
We actually carried him like chariot style.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's a small height difference between you and your brother, Doug. Shout out to Doug.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, how tall is he? 6'4"?
No.
No, 6.
He's just a little bit over 6.
Oh, okay. Well, I must be extra short then.
You
So you grew up basically working on a cattle farm
Mhm.
and doing manual labor. And from what I've gathered, the expectations of work volume and tasks done between you and your brother were basically the same. Like there's no real difference in what the expectations were. How do you think that growing up, that kind of dynamic shaped you later in life?
I think it made me have this mindset that if men are going to be doing this, I should be doing this. Not necessarily like I should be doing this as well. It's more of there's no easy route. Like this is the route to take, and this is how you're going to do it. You don't get to deviate because of age, gender, size, anything like that. I mean, even growing up, my brother outweighed me by the gap then was probably only like 30 or 40 pounds, but we were both expected to take on those cows when they started, get frisky in the gate. It didn't matter that I was smaller. I still had to get in.
They didn't have like a ladies division cow that you would.
No, they didn't have a lightweight cow for me to deal with.
Gotcha. Okay. And all the bags of feed were all the same. They didn't have a heavier one for your brother and a lighter one for you. You had buckets.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, the pellets into the bucket.
Okay. Fair enough. So they didn't have a ladies bucket for you.
No.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, what ages were you during this time?
So I worked on the farm until I was 15 or 16, however old when you can finally start working at a normal job that the government knows about. Because my brother and I, we both had the same choice. You had to work. You didn't get a free pass. So you could either work on the farm or when you're old enough, you could work in town. And when I became old enough, I did not want to keep working on the farm. So I got a job in town at the Pizza Hut.
The Pizza Hut.
The Pizza.
Yes.
One of our 3 restaurants.
Gotcha. And for anybody watching, listening, whatever you're doing to take this in, when somebody says they get a city job, they're from absolute BFE nowhere. Because I grew up in a similar town in North Carolina, and it goes from, it's kind of like ham. You have country ham, and then anything that's not country ham, and my family was always described as city ham, which meant it was chewable. But
where did Spam fall in that category?
That was the first thing I ever learned how to cook. It was just Spam, and we were grateful to have it.
Didn't fall in the ham continuum?
No. I never even had that explained to me as a source of nutrients. It was just something that you could eat, and we were happy about it. But, yeah. So you're working on a cattle farm, and you eventually graduate to the Pizza Hut. Was it near the Walmarts?
Oh, my goodness. We had to drive an hour to get to the Walmart.
Oh, geez.
We had a Ace Hardware. We didn't have that.
Good upstanding institution, yeah.
Any of you that are in the Midwest, we got a Pomida right before I graduated. That was a big deal.
Is that Portuguese?
It's like very, very small.
Okay. It's like a general store type.
Like in between a Walmart and a Dollar General.
Interesting.
Is the Pomida.
Okay. So it's like, okay, fair enough. Were there groceries there, or was it just?
There were some. There was like pantry items.
Okay.
And then it was like clothes, outdated video games. That's a patio. That's a patio section.
Okay.
There would be flowers. They'd have flowers in the spring.
Gotcha. So you guys, you were working on a cattle farm. You had all these things happen. You're in the middle of Kansas. Why do people in Kansas not build their buildings to where they stay on the ground?
I mean, they stay on the ground-ish.
Ish? Okay.
It's just when those big gusts of wind come and the bottom clouds pick them up, they just go for a ride.
Gotcha. It seems like they would find a way to work around that.
If not.
Okay. Maybe one day, I hope. Yeah. We'll talk to your dad about that, see if he's got a strategy about buildings that stay on the ground there. So what was your time like at Pizza Hut?
It's good. I enjoyed working there. My boss, Gail Westgate, she was a nice lady. She hired a lot of us high school kids. It was a good high school job. Waiting tables, kind of learned about people and dynamics and stuff like that. I didn't have a problem with it. It was, sling pizzas, move quickly, get a good tip. So it was, and you got a free pizza after every shift.
Ooh.
That was the best part. I'm pretty sure that's how I got to my heavyweight division while I was in high school.
Interesting. Okay. Well, high school in general, what all were you doing through high school?
I was a stellar athlete.
Really?
Yes. Every team I was on, that bench did not move. I held it down. I made sure that bench was warm and it stayed in place.
What sports were these?
So I attempted tennis for one season.
Okay.
And then after that, I did cross country because I have a runner's physique.
How did you stay on the bench in cross country?
Cross country, everybody gets to run.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the varsity, the JV. We all we all ran. Most of us came back eventually.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did basketball at my stellar 5'7" height. I was a post because I couldn't dribble or shoot or do anything other than just block.
You just run into people?
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, my freshman high school coach, Coach Brockman, he always said I was in the wrong sport. So he knew ahead of time I was meant to be in jiu-jitsu and MMA.
Okay.
He was just waiting for me to.
Were you out there pulling guard on people?
I was fouling.
Gotcha. I can sympathize with that. My middle school basketball coach, after he discovered that he really regretted putting me on the team, I got the hustle spot during tryouts because I apparently was too dumb to quit. I definitely got on the team above people who had more talent, and then I don't think he understood the gap that was there. But during the season, I was very much just 5 fouls sitting on the end of the bench. I was like, all right, go hit this guy. I'm like, okay. Well, yeah, I can sympathize there.
And then I also did track. I was a thrower, so that was at least semi-good choice. And I also did hurdles, because again, this 5'7" frame was meant to jump high.
How did that go?
I only felt once. So,
okay.
There's that.
That's pretty good. Were you running?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if you were able to full stride.
I went to go over it, and my foot did not, and I just...
Gotcha. You just face plant?
I kind of rolled. Didn't do a break fall, but I did roll a little bit.
Okay. You guys didn't learn break falls in hurdling?
No, they didn't teach me break falls. I think they just enjoyed watching.
Well, there is that, for sure. So what kind of principles, traits, talents do you think you took away from your childhood going through school in Clay Center, Kansas?
Just went through school. Everybody did school.
Did school. Okay.
Everybody did school. With the athletics, I did athletics as well as the drama club and art, and then worked. And that was you kind of had two paths. You could either do all the sports and work and whatnot, or get into nefarious activities. So I stayed away from the nefarious activities. I was pretty straight-laced. I was very religious when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So straight up got stuff.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah. That sounds familiar. Like we had a saying where I grew up in Taylorsville, North Carolina, that we only had two things to do there because the place was so small. There was drugs and each other. So people got in trouble very often there. There were only two places to go. One was Walmart's and also a go-kart track. But the go-kart track shut down. So here you got brother-in-law, I believe, some kind of relative, Larry Pollard, shout out to him, ran a transmission shop, and then they made a go-kart track right next to it. One of my favorite places in Taylorsville because it was the only place, actually. So it really narrowed the field. But, so growing up, Clay Center, Kansas, we're working cattle farm, we're working at the Pizza Huts, we're doing all these different athletic endeavors through school. Now we're going to undergrad. What sent you to undergrad? Like, what did you want to do at that point in time? What were you looking at as far as possibilities as an adult, Dr. Jennifer Case?
I just wanted to get out of Clay Center.
Okay.
That's why I went to college. Most of my classmates were either going to Cloud County in Concordia, Kansas, or they were going to K-State in Manhattan. So I went to Washburn just for something new. So, it was only about 3 hours away, 2 or 3 hours away from Clay Center, but it was far enough away that it was a new experience, a new environment. I was going to be a graphic designer when I started college, so I started with a Bachelor of Arts.
Interesting. Okay. Well, what was graphic design like back then?
So we were writing actual code, had to actually put it up and write the code, which was very exciting. I actually got certified in code writing back in the day. I'm sure now it's completely antiquated. This was, back in the 1700s.
Gotcha. Well, tell me about your time at Washburn. Where is that at exactly?
Washburn is in Topeka, Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Which is very high crime. At freshman orientation, the Topeka PD came in and they told us a certain side of campus, which campus was only one neighborhood block. It's not a big campus. But after dark, do not go over to this side of campus because it is being covered with surveillance, high crime, that sort of thing. So going to school there, coming from Clay Center, which is at that time was very low crime, not a lot going on there in terms of shootings or anything like that. Nothing like that. It was petty stuff, Clay Center. So go to college and hearing this from a police officer, was a little bit scared for my safety, so I wanted to take a self-defense class, as every female should, and they should keep up with that self-defense training on a regular basis so that they are ready, just in case. But I took the self-defense class at the Y. The two ladies that taught it did karate. Having grown up in the Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal era, I wanted to do karate as well. So after I finished the self-defense, I think it was multiple sessions. It wasn't just like one afternoon. I can't remember if it was a month or just a couple weeks. But anyway, I did the session with those two ladies, and they told me about their karate school. And so I went to the karate school, and that's when I met Steve.
Steve Twinlow.
Sensei Steve, yes. I went in there very excited about karate. I was pretty much there in every class because I always wanted to. And after one class, Sensei Steve said that they were going to be doing grappling next if I wanted to hang around. Another karate class? Of course I wanted to do it.
Ground karate.
I didn't know.
Okay.
I just thought it was a karate class. Yeah. And the very first thing we learned was triangle chokes with our legs. I was 19 years old in a room full of grown-up males. I was
fresh out of Clay Center.
Fresh out, and I was still very, very religious too.
Yeah, I was going to say you're like on the straight and narrow there. If you're learning triangle chokes, that's a pretty intimate position for some strangers.
Yeah.
What would that feel like? Because I'm sure there are a lot of ladies that go through that in some of their first jiu-jitsu classes.
Yeah. Honestly, it was like 70 years ago, so it's hard for me to recall how far back. I do remember it being like, what? But I did it. I did the choke, and then I was like, this is pretty cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you just got very accustomed to shoving men's head in your crotch.
Of course. Yeah. No.
Respect it.
Those early days. So when we were doing jiu-jitsu, this was back in 2001. This actually. We did not have any color belts whatsoever. We were still wearing judo gis.
So you were not integrated?
No.
Okay.
So we had all white belts, judo gis. Jiu-jitsu gis were not a thing yet. Black belts were a mythical. It was right up there with dragons and unicorns. Like we'd never, we'd see the VHS tapes because the internet was not really around like it is now.
Made funny sounds when you dialed up.
Yeah, we were still dialed. There was no YouTube. There was message boards. That was it. We learned off of VHS tapes, Mario Sperry VHS tapes. So we mainly focused on the basics, which I am extremely grateful for now, looking back and kind of seeing what's happening with this new generation of grapplers that's coming up with all the black belts, all the YouTubes, all of that. They're not learning sound basics, but that's a whole nother rant. All we had was basics, and we hammered them in. It was a lot of triangles, arm bars. Really, that was about it. I don't think we learned a straight ankle lock for years. It was a lot of just straight triangles, arm bars, guillotines. That's about it.
From what I've gathered, it seems like before 2015, leg locks in general were frowned upon as something silly to do. Maybe. Okay. I'm just reciting. Yeah, I'm just reciting what I saw on YouTube. I don't know. Yeah, I've only been in this game, a fourth as long as you have at this point? 6 years and how many now?
Now I'm at 24.
24. So yeah, right at 25% of your experience level. Yeah, that's a long time to be fighting and competing in that and going through the art. I'm sure by the time our journey is done, you will have forgotten more than I ever got to learn. So what was your experience like as far as the dynamics at the dojo with Sensei Steve, and then who were the surrounding casts? What were the things like? Because you're the only woman there.
Yeah. I was the latest female there. Every now and then, over the years there at the School of Martial Meditative Arts, some other ladies would come in. Most of the time, they were mainly there because they were dating one of the other guys, so they stuck around for like 1 or 2 classes. So it was pretty much myself, Sensei Steve, and about a half a dozen guys that were all in their mid-20s. We did have a couple that were in their like 30s, 40s, but most of them were mid-20s athletic males. And it was me and them. I had no idea that they were trying to rough me up to get me out of there. Having
get you out of there.
They get me to not stay and train. Like they didn't want class to slow down or anything like that because a girl was there.
They're trying to get you to quit.
Yeah, they were trying to get me to quit. I had no idea because growing up on the farm, if Doug was told to do something, I was expected to do the same thing. So when the guys are doing, rolling hard, smashing each other, choking each other, it's like I just assumed I was supposed to also smash roll all the same thing. I did not expect any kind of special treatment whatsoever, and they did not give me any special treatment whatsoever.
Well, if they were trying to go hard on you to make you quit, it sounds like a special treatment.
I didn't know. I was too stubborn.
How did you figure that out?
I did not actually figure it out until when we got married, and Sensei Steve said it during the ceremony.
20 years later? Yeah. No, almost 20 years? What? Something like that?
Yeah, because when I started, Sensei Steve had the notion that no female could ever beat him, hang with him, anything like that.
That's Steve Twimblow at School of Martial and Meditative Arts in Topeka, Kansas. For all your hate mail.
He says changed, obviously after training, it only took a few years, and his mindset changed. And he trained me in MMA, and he's trained other ladies to be successful at the local MMA level. And he does a lot of self-defense work with the females and males, but works with the elementary schools in the Topeka area for Back Off Bullies, which is an anti-bullying program. So he's not a bad person. He just...
No, I totally kid. Steve is an amazing guy who does probably too much for others. He is giving to a fault because he cares so much about the well-being of people and being a positive impact in their life. So shout out, Steve. We love him.
He carried the Olympic torch.
Really?
When it went through Topeka, Kansas, there was like a nomination thing, and because of how much he does for other people, he ended up getting nominated.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he carried the Olympic torch.
Holy crap. That's quite an honor. Says a lot about him. And when was this? Was it the 90s, like 96? Or
you have to ask. He showed me the torch he had in his office.
Just trying to remember when it would have been in America. Wow. Okay. Maybe it was one of the Winter Games. I don't know. So, Sensei Steve is having a pretty big impact on your life. Tell me about the dynamics of that.
So I think the biggest thing was, I'm finally doing karate, something I always wanted to do. And Sensei Steve was just very positive as far as being my coach, and just, he'd be like, hey, you've never done this before. You're really good. You're doing very well. Just very positive. And, I wanted to play sports. I did it all through high school, but I was not good whatsoever. So to now be doing a sport that I've wanted to do, forever, and the head guy is telling me that I'm good at it, that was just something that really motivated me to start to really push myself and see how well I could. And then that ended up carrying over into school. And then I actually changed my major from graphic design to athletic training because I wanted to be able to fix my own injuries. That was the whole reason I switched out.
Nice. Now, when you say your martial arts training carried over into school, are you saying you went there and beat the hell out of people?
Yes, I did.
Is that how you got good grades?
Good grades? Yeah. No, it was my first year in school. I did okay. I got B's, C's. I think I even got a D. I didn't think that I was academically inclined, so I didn't try super duper hard. I just basically tried to pass, and that was it. But once I got into karate and realized that I could be really good at something if I pushed myself, I took that same mindset into the classroom, and I ended up going from, I don't even remember what I was getting to, I graduated with a 3.6, which is magna cum laude, and department honors as well. Basically the last 3 years of undergrad, I really dialed it in and was getting near straight A's, if not straight A's that entire time.
That's trippy. And there's just a switch that flipped, or what was that like for you personally?
I don't really, it was a long time ago, Sonny. It was just more of just, I was achieving at a higher level, or not even a high level. I mean, I was still a white belt, beginning karate and everything like that, but it was more of this window that's like, you don't have to be mediocre. There's nothing, you don't have to be average. You're not less than, because when I was going through school, I unfortunately had some not great teachers in junior high that said I had a learning disability, and that kind of labeled me as not a great student, so not really, anything super duper. And that mindset kind of carried through high school. My art teacher, however, she did, Tracy Lebo, definitely saw something in me, and she was a very positive influence. I think that's why I really dove into the arts when I got into high school, and then, went on into college, and then got back into athletics with karate, and seeing that, this aspect of life that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be good at sports. I just was not. But then I got into karate, and it was a sport I was good at. And then it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I am good at this. What else can I? And that's what kind of made me work harder in school. And especially once I switched my major from the BA to the BS and got into the athletic training courses and the science courses, I really started doing well because I was very interested in the material, because it not directly, but I could relate it back to jiu-jitsu, which was very important to me. So I wanted to understand the material in the classroom so I could then take it into the karate school and use it against my...
Interesting. So it sounds like, I mean, you downplay it a little bit, but it sounds like having that switch flip, thinking I can be good at something, turned into why can't I be good at the rest of life? Does that feel accurate to say?
I knew I could be good at jiu-jitsu in school.
In school? Okay. Fair enough. But I mean, it seems like just like a flower blossoming moment. Like you see the world a little bit differently instead of, I'm not supposed to be good at anything. Why try? Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, like, well, I guess that's not the case. And now I can apply myself and go into the rest of life with a different attitude or different expectations. Sounds like a pretty powerful moment. Okay. Am I wrong? Okay. Fair enough. Well, so Steve didn't just tell you could be good. Good would mean you're not going to be bad at it, I guess. How far did Steve push you in this endeavor with karate and martial arts and things like that?
So we did a couple local tournaments, karate tournaments, and we tried to find jiu-jitsu tournaments. The closest thing we got was a sport jiu-jitsu tournament. I forget where we drove somewhere. It was like 8 hours. It was Ohio or Idaho, somewhere random. Anyway, we drove up there not even fully knowing the rules. It was just more, hey, it's a jiu-jitsu tournament. Let's do this. And we got up there and it turned out to be more of like a pancration style tournament.
I don't know what that means.
It's basically they combine karate, judo, and minimal jiu-jitsu. So it was very unique. But anyway, we did that. That was a national tournament, which had no idea it was a national tournament. I ended up winning that tournament, which then had me on the world team to do this sport jiu-jitsu that we still didn't fully understand the rules to. And I went to Uruguay and competed, represented the United States. And I was fighting in the third place match, and they disqualified me for excessive force. So as I'm walking off the mat at that time, Sensei Steve was there, he went with me, and he grabs me by the back of my neck, and he says, fuck this shit, you're going to go pro. And so I did one amateur MMA match and then went pro after that. And he was there to coach me through my MMA career until I went off to grad school.
Wow, that's a lot. Especially to win nationals in a sport that you didn't understand.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Half the sports that they're trying to combine you'd never done or probably seen?
I had done no judo.
No judo. Okay. Gotcha. So how did you win those matches in sport jiu-jitsu initially?
I honestly cannot remember.
Okay.
It was. I know at one point I got a penalty because I was trying to get to the ground and I dropped down to a knee and stood back up and dropped down to a knee and stand back up, like faking a shot, and you couldn't do it. So I did that day.
Okay.
I do remember that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Apparently, wrestling doesn't count as a martial art.
Yeah, I think I know I won with a sub. I think I armbarred her and popped her elbow.
Okay.
I can't remember for sure.
Gotcha.
Many decades ago.
So you have one amateur MMA fight.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was a solid 15 seconds of just pure athletic skill.
Do tell.
So it was in Topeka, and my opponent came out through a looping punch. You could say I changed levels. I basically just dropped and tackled her. We went to the ground. I was in mount, and I punched her. They called it technical knockout.
Okay.
It was
swing, tackle, punch, done.
It was very accurate.
Gotcha.
Very, very high skill.
Well, sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
So one amateur match, you're going straight to professional.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask you how the transition there was, but it didn't seem like there was much of a start. So there's no transition. It was like you're just starting as a professional at that point. What's the difference? Tell me about that.
The main difference between at that time the amateur and the pro was just that you got paid. And it was a pay. I think it was usually like $500 to show up, $500 to win.
That's pretty good money.
Yeah, especially when you're an undergrad.
Back then, yeah.
You're living on $6,000 for the entire year because you're an undergrad.
Right.
That's a huge payday.
That's a big percentage of the annual salary there. Yeah. What year is this, thereabouts?
I believe that amateur fight was 2014.
Okay, gotcha. So,
no.
I was going to say that doesn't match.
Sorry, I got the number wrong. See, that's what I'm telling you. It's a long time ago.
Gotcha.
Yes, no, 2004, because 2008 was my last MMA.
Okay.
Or it would have been, February 2008, because then in the spring of that year, or summer of that year, is when I popped my ACL.
Okay, gotcha. So, first professional fight, 2004.
Yes.
So I was so confused. Yeah.
No,
a little over.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Well, a whole person could drink.
Yeah. That explains the CTE trying to figure out the math.
Yes.
Well, let's go through those fights. Your first professional mixed martial arts fight, but I do want to preface this. 2004, UFC had been around for less than 10 years at that point, I believe, or right at 10 years, something like that. Mixed martial arts was not big.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. It definitely wasn't in the mainstream by any account. Women fighting was almost like something that was never supposed to happen if you ask people in mainstream society. There were politicians talking about this. They didn't even want men fighting in cages, much less women. That was like completely absurd to think about. What was the environment like for you trying to get fights, trying to convince people that you should fight? Like, were there a lot of other women fighting around that time that you knew? What was that like?
So Sensei Steve was the one that found the fights. He would get on the dial-up internet and get on the message boards, and he would find the fights and arrange all of that. So I have no idea about that side of it. I know that it was hard to find matches because I was 155 pounds, so I was considered heavyweight. So it's hard to find women my size and then find women that were willing to show up. At that time, Jeff Osborne was doing a lot for women. I don't even know if some of these young kids even know who he is, but he was putting on all women cards for hook and shoot. And that really gave ladies the opportunity to get out there and show our skill and be in a professional environment and get to compete at that level that we wanted to compete at.
Wow, that's really cool. So he was very much ahead of his time, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Were all your fights hook and shoot, or?
I had 2 hook and shoot fights. Both of those, I think I had Julie Kedzie for both of those. And then I did a fight for Duke Rufus's organization in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I did a Valor fight. I don't remember the name of the individual that was running that one. And then at that, the Valor fight was when I met Dan Severin and had dinner with him on that show. And then the Fatal Femmes was the other organization. That was the world title.
Okay. So let's go through the fights then. Your first professional MMA fight against Julie Kedzie, hook and shoot. How did that go?
Well, I basically just wanted to grapple. I really didn't want to necessarily punch and kick because all I really wanted to do was grapple. The grappling tournaments that I had done besides that national tournament, I was in the men's bracket because there was no women's bracket. So I did MMA just so I could grapple. So I had a very skillful style of fighting. I came out, I blocked the punches with my face, and pulled guard.
Okay. What'd you do from guard? How did the match play out?
Back then, I was very, very bendy. And so I basically, and we only learned the basics. Remember, back then, we didn't have the K guard and all these different guards. We had close guard. So from close guard, I worked triangle armbar, just back and forth. I believe the first match I won with an armbar. And then the next time, or I think I won with a triangle, and the next time was an armbar. It was one of the two because she defended either the armbar or the triangle, which, they don't pick up the other one. I just remember that.
Gotcha. So you work the system there to perfection pretty much. You take what they give you in those situations. Interesting. Okay. So we kind of just blew right by something that sounds completely insane. You had to fight men in jiu-jitsu?
There was there wasn't other females, so there wasn't a women's bracket. So it was just the bracket. It was just the 155-pound weight class. That was it.
Okay. So it's 2025 right now, just in case this gets stuck in a time capsule somewhere. There are women fighting in jiu-jitsu all over the place. Every single weekend, it seems like in every state, there are women abound. There are massive groups of them. It's incredibly popular. But you're telling me 20 years ago, you didn't even have a women's division to fight in. What?
Yep.
Tell me more.
That's just how much the sport has grown. And there were people like myself who went into those gyms and broke down that wall where it was like, women want to train. Because there was ladies that came in that were dating one of the men, and they were not necessarily there to truly train, to roll hard, train hard, learn real technique. There to submit people, there to train. So myself and the other ladies, we would just go in and change that stereotype to get people to understand that there are ladies that want to work hard and are at the gym for the right reason. They're there to train and not all the other stuff.
Gotcha. Not just to get attention from the guys. Gotcha. That's so wild. At those jiu-jitsu tournaments where you didn't have a ladies division, how many ladies would you see there?
Oh, none.
None.
Yeah.
So no, there were no women showing up for that.
There were no female competitors. There were like girlfriends and stuff.
Oh, okay.
There were no other female. If there was a female competitor, I would have had somebody to go against, but there was
Gotcha.
no.
Just the famous jujitsu girlfriends running around. Gotcha. That's wild. Why would you do it if there's no women to compete against? You're having to fight men who are, on average, significantly stronger, larger, quicker, all these things. Like,
I was in my 20s, so I figured I was invincible.
okay.
And at that time, I was in school, but I had not learned everything I've learned now. So the true physical differences between male and female, in terms of not just size, but in terms of connective tissue density, VO2 max, the blood carrying capacity or oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, the bone density, all these things, lactate threshold, all those things that relate to athletics and how they differ between males and females, I did not know it. I was still learning. So I just was like, this is what we're going to do. I'll get them. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I didn't.
So ignorance was kind of bliss there.
Yes.
Until you actually had to go against the guys, I imagine.
I still went out there. I medaled. I never got gold, but I did medal at most of the tournaments. For me, it was just, there was nothing else. So there was none of this, oh, it should be this way. It was just, this is how it is.
And that's it.
If you want to do it, do it. Here's how you do it.
That's so crazy. I wish people had more of a perspective of that now, because, like you said, there's a lot of bickering and stuff. Like, we should have more women's divisions. There aren't enough weight classes, and I do agree. Like, I think there's a big enough population for that, especially with the heavier ladies that come out to compete. Because BJJF stops at 175. The UFC right now, I don't think has a division above 135. They took the 145 weight because there weren't enough people, so they say. But there's not enough weight classes. There are 0 women's weight classes because there's 0 women's classes. Was there any kind of inspiration for you was there a female that you saw previously as like, oh, that person does something like this, I guess I can do that too? Or were there any role models in that regard?
No.
No?
No, I honestly, when I was starting, like, I had no idea who the Gracies were. I know that there was one of the female Gracies when I was, back in 2001, and now I know that there was one. But in the Midwest, no, there was nobody really to look at and be like, ooh, I want to follow in their footsteps, or I like what they're doing. I want to kind of learn more about this, that sort of thing. It just wasn't there. And again, the internet still wasn't very popular yet. So there was no jumping online, finding all these different people on social media or wherever you stalk people online today.
No, especially not with dial-up. You might be able to find like 3 people a day. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, by definition, you didn't know anybody who was doing it. There weren't even women's division. That literally makes you a trailblazer in women's combat sports, MMA, jiu-jitsu, whatever you want to say. Like you were there showing promoters that you were present, you were competing, and you were even getting on the podium a fair amount of the time, it sounds like. Have you ever known any other women or females that saw you doing that or saw you competing in general and then said, maybe I can do that as well?
Now, at where I'm at this stage of my career, yes. Back then, no.
There's weren't women there at all.
No, I didn't get to meet another female grappler until like end of 2004, beginning of 2005, when I started driving up to Kansas City to train, because we found out there was a lady up there, Leanne Dietrich. And
okay.
So yeah, she was the first like female that really got to train with, and that was when I was 3-4 years in.
Shout out to Leanne.
Yeah, and she's still training.
Gotcha. Is she in Colorado?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool. That's tremendous. It boggles my mind to know that there wasn't somebody who's like, oh, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too. It's like, no, you just went and did it. That's 100% trailblazing. That's super cool. So, second fight with Julie Kedzie ended up with either armbar or triangle, and
that was the fight where Rich Franklin was our referee.
Oh, how cool is that? Very cool. What was he like?
He was just our referee.
Was he a good ref?
Yes.
Good. Fantastic. I think he's out of Ohio, maybe?
It could be because Akron, Ohio was where a lot of the hook and shoots happened.
That makes sense. Yeah, there you go. So, third MMA fight. Mm-hmm. What are we looking at there?
That was the Greta Hicks fight for Duke Rufus's organization. And Greta looked like Xena.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very tall, very muscular thighs that I was very worried about how hard they were going to kick.
Well, let's talk about the fight. How did it go?
So I blocked punches with my face.
Solid.
I got, I must have kicked her because she did invite us to her gym the next day and she had ice pack on her shin. So I must have kicked her. I just remember I finally got in like tight enough to try and pull guard, and she was so tall. Like I had a hard time getting her to the ground. And we got to the ground, but I was inside her guard. And she went to throw up an armbar, and I just remember that because I picked her up and I slammed her. I was so excited. So
there you go, Dr. Jennifer Case endorsing slamming out of submissions. It's on the internet now. It's official.
But this was MMA. This was not.
That's whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
But did the slam. So I got out of the armbar, and then went around to what I now know is turtle. She was turtled up, and I hit the rear naked. Finished the fight that day.
Gotcha. You got up, threw the hooks in.
Yep. I don't even think I had the hooks completely in. I was probably off to the side.
Okay.
I was still a white belt.
You just grab the neck and squeeze.
Yes.
Beautiful. That's amazing. Well, was that the first time you'd gone against somebody who was significantly taller?
Yes. Yeah, because Julie is about the same height as me.
Okay. So what was that like? Was that, I imagine you faced men in training, or especially in the jiu-jitsu tournaments, that were taller than you. Was it different? Same? How did that compare?
I honestly cannot.
Gotcha. It was 100 years ago.
It was.
Gotcha.
And Greta, she was on one of the same hook and shoots as me. She was a main event. So I'd seen her. Her and Kelly Colville had a match. And it was just a brawl between those two.
Really?
And so as I was getting ready for the fight, I was like, she's good. This is going to be rough.
That's very cool. Greta Warrior Princess, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, where was she out of? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It must have been there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because she invited us to her gym.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess so. Good point. Do you know what happened to her after that point? Okay. Be interesting if anybody knows Greta, please give us a shout. I'd love to know. I'm fascinated by this stuff. Fighting 20 years ago in the primordial soup that was women's mixed martial art, especially at the professional level. Very cool. So after Greta, who's the next opponent? What's going on in life around that time?
So I was still in undergrad at that
Okay.
time. Yeah. Undergrad took 5.5 years for me to finally get it through, especially changing from the BA to the BS. So, and at that time, I did athletic training as my major, and athletic training was going through the accreditation process. So it was just becoming an accredited program, which impacted the curriculum. And so my year of schooling, they have finalized, you need to take this class before you could take the associated clinical the next semester. So my final semester, I actually had one class I needed, which was the clinical class for my athletic training degree, which is why it took 5.5 years.
Gotcha.
Just because I had to stay in that sequence.
That specific path isn't exactly common, but that scenario, switching your majors, because you start college at 18, 19, something like that. Our brains are still forming for 7 years after that point. You're starting to figure out who you are as an adult a little bit. God knows you're going to find something else that interests you as you change as a person drastically. So that sounds really wild. Going through all that while fighting professionally, doing all the training in school.
And I had a job. I always had at least one job too.
Did you find another Pizza Huts? What were you doing then?
What was I doing? So at that time, I think I was working at the library in this little coffee shop.
Slinging lattes?
Slinging lattes. That's where I learned how to make a really good cup of coffee.
Right on. I wish I could appreciate it. I hate the taste of coffee.
And the owner that owned that, he also ran a catering company. So I worked at the catering company as well. At one point, I became a security guard, and then I was a bouncer for a while. And then
you were bouncing?
At a cowboy, the electric cowboy.
Of course, there's an electric cowboy.
Yes.
There's an electric cowboy, it seems like, everywhere. Oh, man. Okay, we've got to circle back around to you bouncing, but let's get to that fourth pro MMA fight.
Yes.
What do we have going on there?
I lost. I was against Aaron Tohill for that one. That one was really cool because MSNBC was actually doing a special on female MMA. And so they did a little bit of interviewing of myself and Greta before the event, followed us around. So that was really cool.
Oh, it is.
Because that was actual TV. We had to wait for it to actually, what time was it going to be on? You had to be there watching that TV at that time if you wanted to see it.
Crank up the VCR.
Yeah.
Right on. That is very cool. Do you have any idea where that footage might be? That would be cool to see. If anybody could dig that up, MSNBC, what was it, 2006, 7?
It would have been before 2005.
Really? Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because it came on TV while I was with one of my teams. So I went back into the training room and turned it on in our coach's office so that I could watch myself.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but I couldn't leave because my team was still running. So it was
Gotcha. Well, it's not like it is now. Like you could just DVR it or look it up on YouTube 10 minutes later. Like you had to see it or it was gone.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Fourth fight, Erin Tohill, who I had heard of before we even met, because she was number one ranked female fighter in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, nobody would fight her. And so to get that fight, I actually messaged her on the Fighter Girl message board and asked her if she wanted to fight.
Really?
And it wasn't like a, hey, but she probably took it like that. It was like, you weigh as much as me. You want to fight.
Oh, yeah. Hey, pal. Yeah. You swing hands at faces?
Yeah, because I remember she put it back on the message board, are you really going to show up? I was like, yes, I'm serious.
That sounds like from your experience, that's a legitimate question. Yeah. Are you really going to show up?
So that was a unique experience. It was a really big production. They put a lot of money into that one. They picked us up from the airport in limo, and it was at a casino resort type place. I think we were out in California. I don't know for sure. Yeah, and that's when Dan Severn was there. He was the guest announcer guy.
Gotcha. Well, let's go through the fight. What happened?
It was back and forth. I threw a couple high roundhouse kicks in the first round. Yeah, I think it was mainly on the feet in the first round, and then went to the second round, and we ended up on the ground. I was in mount for a second, but then she did just a basic oompa, bump roll, and then she got on top and technical.
Gotcha. You couldn't block all those punches with yourselves. Gotcha.
She got the W that day.
She's a big lady. If I'm thinking correctly, she's very tall.
She's very tall.
Yeah. You have any idea how tall is 5'10", 11?
Taller than me.
Taller than you. All right, you're looking up. Yeah. That must have made that high kick extra impressive.
Yeah. That was pretty
sweet. Okay, so this is your first taste of defeat in mixed martial arts. It seemed like everything else had been pretty dominant before that point.
Yep.
Tell me about that. Like, how do you feel about it? How do you deal with it? Still mad? Erin Tohill.
Yeah, I'm sure I was mad at the time. We were supposed to have a rematch eventually with the Fatal Femmes organization, but it didn't end up happening. That organization actually ended up going under or disbanding, whatever you want to say, after I think they did 3 shows, and then they ran out of, I assume, funding, because they were putting a lot of those shows.
Gotcha.
But that was when at that time, now I was into grad school, so I'm assuming I was just too busy with grad school to make whatever show it was supposed to be on.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Trying to have a real life in academia and get a job and go through school. Grad school is demanding enough. God knows, having to try to fight on top of that.
Yes.
I could barely keep up with competing and lifting weights.
Yeah, it would have been it had been when I was getting my PhD. That's probably why I couldn't do the rematch.
Research?
Yeah, because 2008 is when I popped that ACL. So I graduated from my master's program in July of 2007, summer graduation. And so, and then 2008 is when I popped the ACL. So, and I remember bringing my belt to the KU campus to show my lab mates.
Gotcha.
So the rematch would have been while I was getting my PhD. And that's funny. My PhD, I busted my PhD out in 3 years. So the first year was really rough. Just trying to get used to the program there, and the professor that I was supposed to be a teaching assistant to was not a good experience. But then I got to the human performance lab with Dr. Hobb, and it was awesome after that. So yeah, it was probably just buried.
Gotcha. That's crazy. Well, you mentioned having a championship belt. We haven't talked about that yet. We're foreshadowing. Good storytelling here. So we've gone through the loss of Erin Tohill, number one ranked female fighter on the planet. Big lady. How do you bounce back from that? And then you have a championship fight in another organization soon after. Tell me about that.
I just wanted to keep going. So yeah, one of those is like, I got to get back out there and I want to go again. And so Sensei Steve did the Sensei Steve thing on the message boards and found the Fatal Femmes, and they were doing an all-female card on Valentine's weekend. That was the next fight that I did.
What was the name of this event for Fatal Femmes?
Fatal Femmes fighting? Asian something or other.
It was the Asian Invasion. Have one of those in 2025. Good luck.
That's because the 3 main event fights, 3 title fights, was for each of the weight classes because this was their first show for the Fatal Films organization. So they had the lightweights, middles, and then myself and Yoko were the super heavies.
Yoko
Takahashi.
Yoko Takahashi. So I did research on her because I was familiar with your championship fight. She is considered like the godmother of mixed martial arts for women in Japan. She's like, if not the OG, one of the very, very big trailblazers in Japan for fighting. And people have been fighting in Japan a long time. And she is held in very high regard for that. And you mentioned that this is the first Fatal Femmes event, I think. But this isn't just some upstart. This is a well-funded, high-quality production that looks just like modern-day UFC. All the way down to Herb Dean was one of the cornermen.
Herb was the one that checked my nails. Cecil Peoples
was the ref.
Bruce Buffer was our announcer.
So yeah, so many the showmanship and the trimmings and all that stuff. Bruce Buffer announced your championship fight in 2008, I believe, right? Early 2008?
I believe.
Just for timeline congruency here, Randy Coach
would have been 2007 because I graduated from KU in 2007. I had built on the KU campus.
Okay, gotcha. 2007. Just for perspective on this, timeline-wise, Randy Couture had just come, I believe, out of retirement and won his world championship title in the UFC over Gabriel Gonzaga, I believe. So you were an MMA world champion at the same time as Randy Couture, and both of you announced by Bruce Buffer. Herb Dean was there. There are a lot of UFC staples in that event. It was the same kind of quality production and really very similar quality of fighting. Like, it was basically the same thing. If the UFC had women's divisions at that time, this is basically it.
Yes, but what was tough about that one is that women's MMA, we were still trying to get recognized, and the athletic commission there was not wanting to recognize us at the same level as the males. So the males were getting 5-minute rounds, and we only got 2-minute rounds because women's boxing at that time had 2-minute rounds.
Gotcha.
So we were still very much in our infancy, still trying to get, recognized and basically allowed to compete.
That's wild. But I always thought that those parallels were so cool when I learned about this championship fight that you had and the title that you won. It's almost a carbon copy for women at that time of the highest level MMA that there was, which was UFC, and Pride as well during that time period, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So unbelievable. You were at the pinnacle of the sport when you won your championship there. But you said this was your last MMA fight. Why was that?
It wasn't intentional. I planned to keep doing MMA, but I tore my ACL when my first year of the PhD program. Tore my ACL, didn't have health insurance because back then it wasn't mandatory like it is now. So I had no health insurance. PhD salary, I had a stipend as a teaching assistant, so there was no way I could afford a $40,000 surgery.
Right.
So I went through all of my PhD program with the torn ACL, and I was still doing jiu-jitsu, but it's really hard to pivot, do all the sit down into your punch like you're supposed to with the torn ACL because my knee just kept sliding every time.
Gotcha. Were you competing in general through that? Or?
I did attempt to do a jiu-jitsu match, and I finally got to go against a female, but my leg prevented me from doing anything. I couldn't hold guard or anything because that knee just shifted every way.
Yeah. When you've got an integral piece of your structure that's missing.
Yeah. That's when I got really good at playing top, because prior to that, I was a guard player. I loved playing close guard, and just folding myself in half and working from there was my jam. But once I tore that ACL, there was no holding guard, and I had to learn side control. I did a lot of side control. I didn't get good at mount until about the last decade before we switched to mount.
Gotcha. Wow. That's pretty trippy. You went from being almost an exclusively guard playing jujitera. Even in MMA, you're blocking punches with your face so you can get close enough to grab them and pull guard in a full-on fight, to now you're being forced to learn how to be a top player. What kind of transition was that? Because there are a lot of people who get injuries in jiu-jitsu, and not only do they not adjust their game, a lot of them just quit. Why? Tell me about that.
Quitting was just never something. I mean, I wanted to do martial arts my whole life, and here's a martial art I was good at. So quitting never really crossed my mind. It was just do what I could do. And I was frustrated. I remember being frustrated. It was upsetting.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
You just keep going.
Yeah.
You just kept moving forward.
Yeah.
That's cool. And that brings us to the end of your MMA time period.
Well, I was supposed to do one more. This would have been 2010 or 2011. I was supposed to do it would have been 11 because it was in the summertime after my first year being a professor. But the night before it was supposed to happen, I got a call that my opponent did not pass her medicals.
Ugh, that sucks. And it goes into why Aaron Tohill was like, are you actually going to show up? How many times did that happen in your career?
It happened quite a bit. I remember one of the times it happened, I was really upset because I was going to use the prize money to pay for Bear's adoption fees.
Bear was
my dog, my first dog.
Your very first dog.
Since they Steve helped me, I'm still two dogs.
Nice. Well, that brings us to the end of that chapter. Let's go into the rest in our next episode. So please follow, like, share, subscribe, comment below, do all those things. Send us messages on what you would like to know or drop them down in the comments. Questions for Jen, all those kinds of things, because this story fascinates me to no end. I'm sure it does you as well. And catch us next time on the Peak Tension Podcast.